Clark. Yes, Caitlin Clark has been impacted on the court and off the court with these referees. If it's her being hurt, talking to the refs on the sidelines, sitting with her team, if it's her playing the game, nobody has been impacted more than Caitlin Clark, and I will have to say Cheryl Reeve. Cheryl Reeve then crashed out 2-3 times in press conferences, and we all remember her epic rants. Now we have to talk about this. Number 8, more officiating dialogue and transparency. This is one of the
Caitlin Clark is finally getting some long overdue fairness, because the WNBA has worked out a path toward bringing in fresh referees and stronger oversight over how games are called. Specific details from the new CBA deal have been leaking out, with ESPN getting a hold of the top 10 things players and fans might have overlooked when the agreement was being put together. One of the standout pieces covers officiating, and there's no player who has felt the impact of bad refereeing harder than Caitlin Clark. Whether it was getting hit on the court, having conversations with officials on the sideline, or just sitting with her squad, Clark has been at the center of officiating controversy more than anybody else in the league.
Number 8, more officiating dialogue and transparency. This is one of the things that the WNBA players and WNBPA put inside this collective bargaining agreement. This portion of the article goes on to say every sport has officiating complaints. It's the post-season last year, the WNBA officiating came under scrutiny when Minnesota Lynx coach, what I tell you, Cheryl Reeve was ejected in the Game 3 of the WNBA semifinals against the Phoenix Mercury. She then
And Cheryl Reeve wasn't far behind. She went off in press conferences at least 2 or 3 times, and those moments are hard to forget. So here's what the new agreement actually does on that front. Every sport deals with complaints about referees, but things got especially heated last postseason. During Game 3 of the WNBA semifinals between the Minnesota Lynx and the Phoenix Mercury, Reeve got ejected, then tore into the league's officiating during her post-game presser.
3 of the WNBA semifinals against the Phoenix Mercury. She then the league's officiating in her post-game news conference, drawing a suspension for Game 4 and a $15,000 fine. Las Vegas Aces coach Becky Hammon and Indiana Fever coach Stephanie White both got $1,000 fine for initially agreeing with some of Cheryl Reeve's assessments. Now, this CBA doesn't bring any groundbreaking changes in officiating, but it does include that the union will be giving access to any information.
That earned her a suspension for Game 4 and a $15,000 fine. Las Vegas Aces head coach Becky Hammon and Indiana Fever head coach Stephanie White each got hit with $1,000 fines just for partly backing up what Reeve had said. The new CBA doesn't blow up the entire officiating structure, but it does guarantee the players' union gets access to educational materials and officiating emphasis videos. It also locks in 3 mandatory meetings every season between the league and the union, specifically focused on reviewing flagrant fouls and technical fouls.
Any information, educational and points of emphasis videos regarding officiating, and this requires 3 meetings per season between the league and the union, specifically to review flagrant fouls and technical fouls. If nothing else, it should give the players more of a sense that their input on officiating is being heard. This is major. Now, we do know in September, this past September,
the whole point is to make players feel like their concerns are actually being taken seriously, not just brushed aside. Moving over to travel, when the previous CBA got signed back in 2020, most people figured charter flights would be a massive sticking point in future negotiations. Instead, the league quietly shifted to charters in 2024, which made a real difference for player health, recovery, and overall performance. It also put an end to the embarrassing travel situations that had been making headlines and making the league look bad.
Now, we do know in September, this past September, the WNBA released an article via the ESPN that stated that there wasn't any guidelines or anything like that when it comes to officiating. Now, this is another part. Now, this portion right here do have a video that we're going to show that is from ESPN, man. And this portion right here, it says charter travel. When the last CBA was signed in 2020, most would have assumed negotiations for charter flights would be a major issue.
WNBPA president Nneka Agwamiki spoke about how intense the process was. She described spending hundreds of hours communicating with players directly, not just through the executive committee, but on an individual basis every single day for weeks at a stretch. Keeping players informed and engaged throughout the whole process was something she treated as a top priority going in. On revenue sharing, which was arguably the biggest piece of the whole negotiation, the union came in pushing for a gross revenue model from day one.
For the next labor deal. Instead, the league went to charters in 2024, a big step forward regarding players' health, recovery, and comfort, all of which can affect the quality of play. Plus, charter largely ride with the WNBA of embarrassing travel issues. Now, this was Shanae Aguma-Mike speaking to Steve.
That you had from the players within the Players Association. Speak to what that was like for you and how challenging that was for you, particularly.
The league originally had a different setup that worked more like a net revenue share, where costs get deducted before players see their cut. The union held firm and landed on gross revenue sharing, meaning players get their percentage off the top before any expenses are pulled out. That was considered the most significant victory of the entire agreement. The vote to ratify the CBA came back with over 90% player participation and something close to a unanimous yes.
The Players Association. Speak to what that was like for you and how challenging that was for you, particularly as the process waned.
Yeah, it was huge. You know, when the opt-out first occurred, that's kind of like the beginning of the engagement process. And when I had joined as president, my main concern was engagement. You know, as you know, with athletes, you know, we have to make sure that we're able to keep people engaged and informed. And we did that really well in 2020. And coming in here, I really wanted to make sure that we kept that up. And over the process, I mean,
Shortly after, the league's Board of Governors also voted unanimously to approve the terms. Commissioner Kathy Engelbert described the moment as the start of a bold new chapter for the WNBA. On the financial side, players will receive 20% of gross revenue when salary and benefits are combined. Minimum salaries are starting at $270,000, rising by 4% based on years of service, while the standard maximum salary is set at $1.19 million beginning in 2026.
Sure that we kept that up. And over the process, I mean, I would say there was hundreds of hours where I was communicating with players on an individual level, not just with the executive committee, which we have a fabulous executive committee, and our staff as well. But it got to a point where we were reaching out to players on an individual basis every day for weeks at a time.
Let's talk about revenue sharing, because obviously that was a big part of this collective bargaining negotiations. I want you to just reiterate to folks in America and explain why, in detail, why that was so important for you guys.
It was huge. You know, from the beginning, we proposed a growth.
The season structure is also changing in a pretty big way. Starting in 2027, the WNBA season can run as late as November 21st, which pushes it about a month beyond where the 2025 season ended in mid-October. Players will also need to report to their teams by April 15th or whenever training camp begins, whichever comes first.
Look at Barbie Dream Fest, Barbie Nightmare Fest. Like this has been a disaster. Pictures are coming online. Videos are coming online. Angel Reese spoke. Nobody showed up. Nobody was there. It was a complete and total failure. Look at this headline, folks. Look at this headline. We'll get to Angel Reese in a second. Barbie Dream Fest, quote.
That earlier date could create complications for players who spend the offseason competing overseas or taking part in Unrivaled, whose schedule is expected to stretch into April. Something called Barbie Fest recently took place, and for those unfamiliar, it operates essentially like a Comic-Con but specifically built around Barbie culture and fandom. The event featured a lineup of notable guest speakers, including Serena Williams and Angel Reese.
Second. Barbie Dream Fest, quote, nightmare. I mean, people paid like $1,000 for 3 days of this crap. For a pass. Look at this. Look at that. Nobody. Nothing. And look at the booths. Pathetic. Some people are calling this a fraud job. All right, a fraud job. Check this.
What actually unfolded at the convention, though, has since been described across social media as an absolute catastrophe. People online are calling it Barbie Nightmare Fest, and the photos and footage circulating make it easy to understand why. The attendance was nearly non-existent.
All right, a fraud job. Check this out. Here's Angel Reese right here at this event actually speaking.
To take every L on the chin and turn it into a positive and make it a blessing. I'm just so happy and grateful and graceful that I was able to experience everything in life that I have experienced, from the negative to the positive, because it has shaped me into the woman that I am today. I wouldn't be able to be here and be able to experience these things without those moments.
Images from the venue show massive empty floors, sparse booths, and almost no crowd to speak of. Some attendees have gone so far as to use the word fraud when describing what they experienced. One Reddit user shared that spending roughly $1,000 in total $300 for a 3-day pink pass and $600 for a hotel led to immediate disappointment upon arrival.
Without those moments, and I wouldn't change anything. So I'm really grateful and graceful, and I hope you women just continue to dream big, have goals, know that you can do anything you put your mind to. You are next. You are the boss.
Okay, that's enough. That was posted by the Palm Beach Post. That video, folks, and yikes. Angel Reese needs a new team because what the F? She's a speaker and basically no one showed up.
That person walked up to guest services and asked, "Is this it?" The staff member at the desk responded that the question had already come up many times that day. Angel Reese did take the stage and deliver remarks to the sparse crowd. She spoke about resilience, about accepting setbacks and converting them into fuel, about gratitude for both the difficult and rewarding moments that shaped her path.
And basically no one showed up. This is wild. Look at this one. There's going to be this one dude standing at the front right here. Look at this guy. And then all this space right here. Nobody's there. Nobody is there. Look at this place.
Would have been able to skate in there. This was their Barbie dream house, a cardboard standing box with a VW.
She encouraged women in attendance to dream ambitiously and hold on to their goals. The echo bouncing off the walls during her speech, however, told its own story about how few bodies were actually present in that room. Caitlin Clark was brought up as a direct contrast.
In there. This was their Barbie dream house, a cardboard standing box with a VW wagon. It would have been nice, but the doors were closed, so you couldn't even go inside of it. As you can see, everything else was just spread out, open, very empty, very scarce, and it was just fee after fee.
Wow. Wow. Guys, let me just point it out before we keep going.
Events where Clark has appeared have drawn packed venues and significant foot traffic. The comparison was stark. Whoever is managing Angel Reese's public appearances and event bookings needs to take a hard look at the process.
Let me just point it out before we keep going. If Caitlin Clark spoke at an event, we've seen events she speaks at, packed houses. Packed houses. Serena Williams, nobody showed up for her either. Look at this. We paid $250 per pass. Barbie Dream Fest is a nightmare. Look at this. I mean,
being attached to an event that people are actively discussing in terms of potential lawsuits because attendees traveled in from out of town only to find cardboard.
Now, guys.
That's wild. Look at this, folks. I mean, what is happening? Look, this is where Angel was speaking at, right here, right here. They ain't nobody down there. Nobody. Look at what? What?
The whole setup, from the vendor booths to the main stage, reportedly felt hollow, underpopulated, and poorly executed. What was marketed as a premium fan experience delivered something that felt closer to a half-assembled display at a shopping mall. The fallout online has been significant, with attendees sharing footage and commentary in disbelief at what the event turned out to be.